Good afternoon, Ms. Esquenet. Thank you for taking the time this afternoon for an interview about Bruges, about the Foodwinners project, and other subjects that we'll be touching today. Perhaps you could start by introducing yourself and your responsibilities in the City Council.
Yes, hello, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Minou Esquenet. I am, as you said, an alderman in the city of Bruges, and my responsibilities are the climate, energy, the city's environmental policy, smart city, and facility management. An exciting package, if you ask me, in which sustainability is a central theme. In the long term, we want to become a CO2 neutral city, which is a real big challenge, as you all will know. We want to achieve this not only by making our numerous, often historical buildings more sustainable, but also by making our new construction projects, as our new museum hall, such as the Bruges Meeting and Convention Center, in which you are today, making as energy efficient as possible. Also by electrifying our vehicle fleet and by implementing smart technologies. On the other hand, every stage of the food chain also presents us with several options to reduce our CO2 emissions, and this is what we are aiming at.
Is there a specific end date for this project? On in which year wants Bruges to be climate neutral?
We signed the Mayor's Covenant, so we have to be climate neutral by 2050. It is really a big challenge. But we will do everything to achieve this.
I can imagine. One of the projects that is your responsibility is the Bruges Food Lab. The conference that we want to organize is about food for generations, about sustainable food production and so on. So, of course, we are very interested in this food lab. Could you explain a bit about how it came to life? Who had the initial idea?
It is a very nice project indeed. Food is very important to all of us, not only for pleasure, but also in terms of sustainability. It has very different aspects, food. It's very interesting and it's very touching in the everyday life of everyone. So it's a very interesting domain to work in also. The Food Lab was initiated in 2015 when Bruges participated in a European project called Dear Food Smart Cities for Development. One of our tasks was to build a sustainable food strategy for the long term. We did this in co-creation with a number of stakeholders, organizations, our universities, knowledge institutions, companies and individuals. The Bruges Food Lab is a result of this co-creation, so it's a group of people who all want to work on this food strategy. There are farmers in it, there are people who hold stores, there are people who make certain local products. It's a whole bunch of people who are very concerned about food and sustainable food and food close to home. The Bruges Food Lab consists of all of these stakeholders, and they work out actions to further develop our own sustainable food strategy, which we made together with all these people.
Okay, so it's really a collaboration of all the different types of people in Bruges that are involved. Let's say the entire food chain, from production to consumption.
Yes, even restaurants. There are a whole lot of very different people who are working together on this food project. It's very inspiring to see that they find each other, because there's often very different people with different views on it, but still in this food strategy, they find each other.
Okay, that's very pretty, because I can imagine that a consumer or a restaurant or a farmer, they all have different stakes in this story. So
Yes, but the consumer today is also very concerned about where the food is coming from.
Okay.
And even people who visit very high-level restaurants want to be sure that the products that are presented on the plate are sustainable, and they like to know if it comes from a farmer from not too far away. And you can see it on some menus that the restaurants put where the food is coming from. It's because the consumer wants to know. He's interested too. He's also a stakeholder.
So the main purpose of the Food Lab is really the sustainability of the entire food chain.
Yes, and becoming more conscious and raising the awareness of the consumer about this food. And we can see that it touches the lives of everyone. When we launch a new project, for example, we did with Foodwinners, we were searching for 50 Bruges families to help in our food strategy. They got an education on how to waste less food. And this was one of the press conferences in which I got a huge response, huge. So I felt then that it was something that touched the lives of really a lot of people. It's very alive and kicking, this awareness of food, of sustainable food, of preventing food loss. It's very present in our lives, more than we can imagine. I couldn't imagine before we launched this project of Foodwinners that it was so alive in the heads of the people. We were seeking for 50 people, and we got 150 inscriptions. So we had to choose, we had to narrow down this to 50 people. It's very important.
And this is one of the projects that launched under the banner of the Food Lab, the Foodwinners project. So this is done with local citizens, and you already said you gave them an education about how to waste less food. Is that the main purpose of the project, or what do you expect from the people in return?
So Foodwinners was launched in the larger framework of our food strategy. And the aim was indeed to diminish the food loss or the food waste, as you want. And in this project, these 50 people also learned how to prepare the parts of, for example, vegetables that you normally throw away. They learned how to manage the fridge, how to organize the shopping, and they were really so enthusiastic that the results were outstanding. We aimed at 35% less waste, and they ended up on average of 65%. So there's really a long way to go, and there's a lot to win.
Yeah, and that goes to show that actually with a little bit of effort, you can have tremendous results, of course.
Yes, it's really a mindset. It starts with the shopping, how you make the choices in the shop. Then it goes to the organization of the fridge, that you have to know that you put the dairy in the upper part of the fridge and that you put the meat in the part where it's colder, so it's in the lowest part of the fridge. And then it goes to cooking and making use of the parts of food that normally are not used. For example, the roots of leek, they were very enthusiastic. And now we are seeking, we go to the next level. We are trying to find 500 people. And next year, we're going to 5,000. So we want to work in concentric circles. Our first 50 people are very enthusiastic and they got magnificent results. But this was a very intensive path that they followed. The next ones, so they have to be our ambassadors. Now we're looking for 500 people, and next year we want to reach 5,000 people.
And next year, that means 2022,
yes.
the year of our conference.
Yes.
5,000 people. How many people are living in Bruges?
120,000.
Okay, that's already a nice percentage,
yes,
5,000
yes.
people.
It's ambitious, but I'm sure it will work out. We will find them.
If this is a strategy that starts to live with the citizens and you see it everywhere in the street, in restaurants, in the shops, then I'm sure you will entertain more people or amuse more people to join in.
We saw in the past few years that this awareness about food is really growing and growing. There are more and more initiatives of some local farmers who come together and make little markets. They do like a pop-up shop. We see them coming here and there in the city.
The Foodwinners project is now a very local initiative within the city of Bruges. Are there plans in the future to spread the idea, to spread the word to surrounding cities?
Well, as I told you, we try to reach now 500 and next year 5,000 people. And maybe some of these people could come of the surroundings. As we are in our region, the biggest city, our mayor, and we think we have a role to play in this area, and that we have to take care of the smaller villages that are not able to step in these European projects. So we do think that we have a responsibility to take them with us without taking over their village, but to help them to realize these aims that we have about sustainability, about good food, about nice projects. We think we have to help them. So maybe yes.
All right. We will be looking forward to the future, to 2020 and beyond, of course. Now I have heard about another project here in Bruges. In Flemish it's called Pluktuintje. Loosely translated to English, that would be something like a community-supported agriculture. What are the plans regarding that project?
Yes. That's not loosely translated. That's
it's the exact,
the exact word for it. So this means that you find a piece of land, you find a farmer who wants to work on it on a sustainable manner, and then you work on a sort of an adherence base. So people can be part of this community-supported agriculture. They pay a fee per year, for example, and they can come and get their food themselves once a week, for example. This is a way of producing food in your city on a sustainable manner and with a return for the farmer on a smaller scale, but because there are no people in between, no big shops in between like supermarkets and so on, the chain is shorter, by means of which the farmer can live and the people get good food. But they have to do it themselves. That's very special. They have to seize and get the food out of the soil themselves. So they get the feeling of what it is to grow food, because we all think it's natural that there are tomatoes in the supermarket. But if you try to raise them yourselves, you can feel that this is not so easy, because there are lots of obstacles on the way from a little seed to a fruit or a vegetable. And in this way, it's a way of getting respect also for the work of the farmer. We are now, on this moment, looking at one piece of land in the surroundings very near to the city center where we could do it. We are talking on this moment with the people in the surroundings if they could agree with this and if they're interested. If so, we go on. And maybe next year, when you are here, we have a CSR.
Okay, perfect. We will have to get in touch with our team that supports the content of the conference, and maybe we can do. It's not really a company visit, but a site visit to one of the gardens.
Yes.
I assume these are not the people that expect to have strawberries all year around, for example.
It's very
because you realize that it's not easy to grow something, and that
you realize that you only have strawberries in summer, and that it's impossible in the Bruges region to have them in winter. It's very interesting.
I can imagine. Another thing that we heard about is there is, of course, the COVID pandemic. We cannot ignore it. So a lot of the restaurants have switched to pure takeout formulas and not dine-in anymore, as it's not possible, of course. Now, all these takeout options, they produce a lot of waste. How has the city of Bruges responded to that?
Well, this is indeed a very hard period. We have a lot of restaurants and cafes. They all had to close down, and this situation is going on and on. It's a very hard economic situation in our city, as we are very dependent also on tourism. So we are facilitating this takeaway as much as we can, but we also try to remain focused on the theme of sustainability, and we try to help them to be sustainable. So we are now working on a project to offer, or
not for free,
not
but
completely for free,
a very low price,
but for a very affordable price, to offer them sustainable boxes and so on, in order that we are not loaded with loads of plastic, and that's what we want to avoid. So we're trying to help them.
I think that's a very good initiative, because all the people that are working in the cafe, restaurant, hotel business, they're having a rough time.
They're suffering a lot. And we have very nice restaurants. I'm sure you will enjoy some of them while you're staying here. I hope so. We could give long lists. We have. Did you know we have the most Michelin stars in a small region here in the Bruges region? So there's a lot to discover for you.
Sounds good.
I suppose you all like good food, and it is a central theme of your congress. You have to try some of our very good restaurants. We have them in all kinds and sorts.
This is indeed one of the themes that we want to bring on the conference. That not only food, it needs to be sustainable, because we have to think about the future, the children, the grandchildren, the future generations. But that doesn't mean that food has to be not good to eat. You can enjoy a steak from time to time.
Of course.
But as it goes with everything, not too much.
That's true.
So thank you for your elaboration on the different projects that Bruges is doing together with the citizens in the local neighborhoods, together with the farmers, the restaurants, to help everyone and to educate everyone. Those are very beautiful projects. Now, our conference will take place in June 2022. Perhaps it's a good idea to visit or to come together again in about a year to see how they have grown, what they have become. Does that sound like a plan?
It sounds like a very good plan. I will be happy to meet and talk with you again next year. I hope we can do it at the table of a good, sustainable restaurant.
Fantastic. Then we will talk again in about a year. Thank you very much. Miss Esquenet. Thank you, Paul, for being here as well. We'll see each other next year.
That's a deal.